What's up, everyone? It is your girl, Jail Beauty 87 here, aka Grace, and today we're filming on my phone because I ran off and left the SIM card at home, and I was like, I'll be damned if I'm driving home again just to get a SIM card in order to, not SIM card, a SD card in order to film this video. So we're gonna get into my new Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette. So what I did, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna compare all of these palettes that I have to this one, and then I might do some swatches of the Makeup by Mario versus this one. Since y'all said y'all wanted me to do a comparison, I can at least give you the swatch comparisons now, so that way when we film the video with the eye look, it won't take as long. But anyway, let's get into it. So this is what she looks like on the inside here, as you can see. And when I saw this palette, it made me think of this Ethereal Eyes palette because I feel like they look pretty similar. The only thing is, I feel like the Natasha one is deeper than the Makeup by Mario. Even like the lighter shades I feel like are deeper. Maybe it's just me, but y'all can comment down below and tell me what you think. I'm like, they look real similar to me. I don't know. But the next one I have is the Face Glam palette from Natasha in the shade Dark. So I figured I'd just show like all the stuff I have now, and then we'll swatch some of them. I especially want to swatch the Natasha Denona shades alongside this one. So I'm gonna mainly do those, then I'll do the Makeup by Mario last, and then we'll call it a day. I was gonna try to film some more videos, but I'm like, with the space that's on my phone, because I've been filming all my eyeshadow collection videos, I don't have time. So next we're gonna get into my what is it? My Supreme Nudes, the Quickies palette. And this is what they look like side by side. So I feel like they look somewhat similar as well. So if you have some of these palettes, you might want to reconsider like getting, you know, the other ones. I didn't put up my reel yet the way I normally would have had it already up, because I had left my Supreme Nudes, and my Supreme Nudes Quickie was here, and I wanted to make sure that they went in the video as well. So that'll be going up tomorrow when you see these swatches on YouTube, now that I have both these palettes in my possession to like show you them side by side. So this is what they look like side by side. I feel like the colors in here are richer in this palette, but you know, Angel does have like a richer skin tone, so that might be why. I have the Supreme Mauves, even though people don't like this one, just to see if any of the pinkier shades look somewhat similar, because I feel like there's a couple pinky shades in here, and I know this one had pinky ones, so I wanted to show them. Yeah, because I feel like, if you can pause it for a second and see how you feel about it. I just bought that, so I'm going to take the majority of stuff back home now, because, you know, I can. I got little baby Natasha Denona to show with this. I got a whole bunch of Natasha Denona to show with this, because I feel like it's just really similar to all her other stuff, but I'm mixing the other stuff in between. Next, I have the Clever Naquan Nude Pop palette. The late great Mel Thompson's one of her favorites. I really like the colors for this as well. Here's what they look like side by side. Then I have the Rose Quartz palette from Miss Huda Beauty. They look like side by side. I didn't think they were gonna look that close, but I figured maybe like the peachy tones and the pinker tones would look similar, and maybe that cool tone on the end. So that's what they look like side by side. Pack all this stuff up to go home, child. This is about to be a whole to do with this. The last one I have is Naughty Nudes before we get to the rest of just Natasha Denona stuff itself. So I have Naughty Nudes by Huda Beauty alongside this palette. Here's what they look like. As you can see, this one I feel like is a little more warm, but I wanted to see if it had any like the, again, shades that were similar. Since I was trying to get y'all to like not necessarily buy everything new that pops out, I wanted to see if I had anything similar to where I was like, yeah, see, this is why you don't need it. Now let's get into these Natasha Denona palettes. So I have my Dream palette from Natasha. This is what they look like side by side. So I feel like some of the peachier tones and some of the neutral tones look similar to the ones in here. So you can pause and look if you please. So we're gonna swatch whatever I can find in this palette. I basically want to swatch whatever I can find in Natasha's palettes and all the stuff I can find in Mario's palettes and call it a day. Next, I have my retro palette. Of course, y'all remember I took one shade out of here and switched it, so I put this fun pink in here to go with the rest of like the pinks in here, because I felt like they had light pinks and deep pinks, but then they have a nice medium, just true pink like the shade I added to it. So that's what they look like. I don't feel like there's too much in here to look similar, believe it or not, though. Like maybe the shade right here we can swatch. The good thing is I'm glad I'm not finding a whole bunch of stuff from her to swatch to look similar to other stuff, because then I'd be pissed. Like, look, girl, how many times do you think I'm supposed to take this? Like, what do you think this is? I have my mini glam palette. Y'all remember I didn't buy the full size glam? Ooh. I feel like the tones are just a little bit different, but not that much. But that's what it looks like. Oh, and if you're curious what's on my eyes right now, I forgot to tell y'all, I've used the Blend Bunny palette with the Simply Posh Fairy, what is it? The Fairy Tale Fairies palette is what I have on for Simply Posh. And then I use the Sugar and Grunge palette from Blend Bunny. This is the Mini Biba palette. Again, see, I'm feeling like that peachy shade is just a little bit deeper than the one that's in this palette. So I feel like I already have tones that are similar from Natasha, but I had to, you know, verify. Next, I got my baby retro palette. Since y'all already saw my midi retro palette, this is my baby. So none of the colors in there are looking similar. That's good. Then I got my baby Biba palette. So here's what they look like side by side. So far, it's looking like the only thing that's looking like they're going to be similar are the shimmers in these palettes. But since she came up with the new formula shimmer, hopefully I'm wrong. Then I have a baby glam palette. So yeah, I just have all the baby palettes that are from this brand so far. Again, I feel like some of the neutral shades are going to be the same, but you know, people love to have neutrals in their collection. So now let's get down to the swatches. So I'm starting off with the last one you just saw, which is the baby glam palette. Where's my shoe? Child, I thought I lost my shoe. Okay, so what shades do we think look similar to this? I'm thinking, I mean, I know they're not going to be exact just because she has these new foily formulas in there. So I'm swatching the shimmery shade from the glam palette. Sorry, the mini glam. Sorry, baby glam palette. And then I'm swatching the shade right here. And we'll see how they look side by side. I feel like the one from the baby glam palette looks a little bit, oh, this is more like a satin shade. So this is from baby glam palette, and then this is from the new Natasha Denona palette. Then one in the corner called what? Travertine. But as you can see, this definitely looks like a more satin wet metallic on the lid, and this gives more of that glittery foily effect that she has on her stuff. So that's not similar. Let's see about this taupey-ish looking shade. I don't know what the name is called. Is there a name on the back of this palette? Okay, it doesn't say, it just says 323 cm. So I don't know if that's the same as the shade called Stone, because no, Stone is lighter than this. So the first shade I swatched was from the baby palette, and the second one is from, so this is from the baby glam palette, and this is from Natasha's palette, the new one in Stone. So as you can see, they're not similar, which again, I am glad about because I'd have been upset. And this last shade right here, as you can see, this is more of a creamish tone. Oh, sorry, it's more of like a grayish, taupish tone. Whereas I feel like this is more of a cream, so I feel like it doesn't match anything. And I feel like this one will be a little too light. But I mean, since we're here, maybe, no, that's way too light. If you can see what I'm talking about, like this one is way lighter than this one, so I don't even need to swatch it. So we're done with Baby Glam. Let's see if we can find anything in Baby Biba here. I'm not seeing anything in Baby Biba in either, because again, the shades are lighter. So as you can see, this shade is deeper than that one is, so I don't feel the need to swatch that. I mean, maybe we can go ahead and swatch the shimmer and see if it'll be similar, but I feel like it won't, because remember that she has those new foily sparkly effects shades. But I'll swatch it against the satin one since it's here, we're here, everyone's here. The satin one is called Whisper, so I'm swatching the baby Biba palette first, and then I'm swatching the shade Whisper from the new palette. So this is from the baby Biba palette, and this is Whisper. As you can see, this is more of a champagne undertone, and this has more of that grayish taupe to it. So those aren't the same either, which I'm glad about, because like I said, I don't want a whole bunch of repeats since, you know, I spend good coins. Now the other shades, this is a little too warm tone for this palette, because this seems to be a more neutral and cool tone palette. As you can see, it's not matching this shade, and that shade is much darker. So there's nothing else to compare it to. So we're gonna move on to the next one. I want to see if this shimmer shade in the middle of the baby retro is going to be similar to that shade I just swatched from the Travertine shade I swatched. I'm just going to swatch it next to it and see if it'll be similar to it. So give me a minute. Okay, so this is the shade from the baby retro palette, and this is the first shade we swatched. As you can see, they're not the same either. They look similar and look like they'll be wet and nice looking on the lid, but this one seems a little bit more sparkly to me, and seems like it has a little bit of a pink shifting undertone to it that I feel like you're not necessarily catching on camera, but if you saw in person, you'd see what I'm talking about. And I don't feel like you can see it on my finger either, because it just looks kind of taupey, but on my hand I can definitely see the pink sheen in it. So they are not similar either. So far so good. I'm liking that everything isn't similar, because I heard some of the shades in here are similar, so that's why I was kind of concerned, like, well, is this gonna be similar? And then I'm going mad. So take a good look before I wipe off the swatches and move on to the next thing, honey. Okay, because remember, this is from the baby glam, this is from I Need a Nude, this is from baby retro, this is from baby glam, and then this is from the new palette in the shade Stone. this is from the Biba palette, and sorry, the Baby Biba palette, and then this is from the Nude palette, and it's the shade Whisper. So remember, those are the shades that you were looking at a few moments ago, because they have been wiped off my hand now. And now we're gonna get into the actual Biba palette. So let's see if we got anything in here that looks similar. I kind of want to swatch it against the shade Whisper again, just to see, because that's the only one I feel like really looks similar. All of the other ones are like the wet reflective one or the super sparkly glittery one, and I feel like it's still not gonna look the same. But you know, no, because it looks like it has like a pinky shifting tone to it when you swatch it. But I'm still gonna swatch it against the shade Whisper, even though it's giving more of a satin effect, just so you can see what I'm talking about. See, this is from the Mini Biba palette, the top shimmer shade I showed you, and then this is the shade Whisper that I swatched the first time. And as you can see, they are not similar at all. I want to see if some of the more peachy shades will work out, so I'm gonna swatch this peachy shade right here up against the shade Wit in the Nude palette, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm swatching both peachy shades. So I swatched this one first, and then I'm swatching this one second. So that's how the swatches are gonna go in my hand. There's 1, 2, and then we're gonna swatch the shade Wit against that one. I should have swatched the shade Vogue against the first one. I left enough space where I can do it. So the first swatch I showed you all, I'm going to swatch the shade Vogue behind it, and then we will have the second swatch of the peachy shade from the Biba palette, and I will swatch the shade Wit against it. So this is from the Biba palette, the first shade I showed you, and then this is the shade Vogue from the I Need a Nude palette. This is the second shade from the Mini Biba palette, and then this is the shade Wit from the I Need a Nude Midi palette. So this is what they look like. I don't think I see any other shades that will match this, because this shade is a little bit deeper and more red toned, and I feel like this one is deeper and more cool toned. So as you can see, they don't match. It's still much lighter, and there's nothing else in the palette that's really matching for us to swatch against. So we are done with the Mini Biba. On to the Mini Glam palette. So I'm gonna see how much we can swatch out of here. I feel like there's not much in here either, although I'm gonna take that shade Travertine again against this shade right here just to see. I'm thinking I might try to, I was gonna try to swatch the chocolate shade in this one against the other one, but I can tell already just by looking at it, it's not going to be deep enough, so I don't want to waste too much time on that, so we're not going to do that. So here is that deep shade in the Mini Glam palette, and here is the shade Travertine. So again, this definitely gives a more pewter, deeper grayish tone, and I feel like this one gives a more taupey-ish tone in my personal opinion. So they're not looking the same so far at all. I don't have a champagne gold shade to swatch up against that would be fair, because y'all know the new shades that have the sparkle in them. It's not going to be fair to swatch it up against that. I will try to, I was thinking about swatching this shade right here against the shade Ella, but I'm feeling like it has way too much sparkle and glitter for it to be fair, because as you can see, this, plus it is a little bit lighter than that one, so I don't think we're going to do that. So we're going to, I think we're pretty much done with this palette, because the undertone of this seems to be more like the yellowish tone, and the shade in here seems to be more of a peachy-ish beige tone, or pinky if you will. So I don't think they're gonna swatch well side by side. So we're done with those. So we only have 3 more palettes to go, and then we'll get into the Makeup by Mari one last, which is the one you asked me to compare it to as far as the eye looks go. So I'll do that in addition to another look. So let's get into this palette here. I'm thinking this chocolate brown might actually be deep enough, but I'm thinking the undertone is going to be wrong. But we're going to swatch it anyway. So I'm going to take the shade Smoke from my face, from my Glam Face palette. And then I'm going to take the shade Silhouette. I'm going to swatch both of those. So yeah, I can definitely look at them and see the undertone is a little bit different, but that's okay, you know. So I swatched Smoke first, and then Silhouette second. So this is Smoke right here, and this is Silhouette. And as you can see, Smoke is actually a little bit deeper than Silhouette. I thought it was going to be the other way around, but I am surprised. So there are the swatches for you. So those are the last 3 palettes I did. Let me go ahead and swatch this off my arm, and let's get into the last one. When it comes to, what, let me see, are any of these shimmers looking similar? I kind of feel like the shade Inner Corner looks similar to something in the palette, but again, since they're so glittery and reflective and have that white I mean, that wetness look to them. I don't want to like compare them and then it like blow it out of the water and then, you know, it was pointless. Because I feel like it'd be pointless if it blows it out the water. So we're going to skip that. Let's see if the retro palette has anything we can compare it to. I still want to compare this shade in retro to that silhouette shade I just did. So maybe I shouldn't have wiped it off. It's too late now though. So we're going to take the shade, what is it called? Apart. And yeah, I definitely feel like they might be similar or closer in tone than the other one I just did. I'm saying I don't feel like I really found anything that's closer to the somewhat wannabe pinky shades in this palette to do. Ooh, that swatch so smoothly and nice. But I know it's not going to be as deep as this is. So this is what I expected more to look like when I took it out, the smoke shade out of Glam palette. For it to look like this, not the way it did. And this is Silhouette. So this is from the retro palette, and then this is Silhouette from the Nude palette. But at least I can swatch some of the pinky shimmers against this, even though that's not gonna be fair. I just want to be able to swatch something pink. Okay, leave me alone. Leave me alone. Let's see. Do I have any other shades I can swatch the similar? I think I want to swatch New Mauve up against the shade Mesh because they look somewhat similar. So I'm gonna do New Mauve, and then I'm gonna swatch Mesh, and I'll swatch the shade Stone just so we can see what they look like. So New Mauve. Then I'm swatching Stone and Tender. Sorry, it wasn't supposed to be Tender, it was supposed to be Mesh. Crap. Well, I just swatched all of them now. So this is New Mauve. This is Stone. This is Tender. And this is Mesh. So I feel like Mesh and Stone look pretty close in tone, and New Mauve. So I feel like a lot of them are actually looking quite similar, which I'm shocked about because I didn't expect them to look that close in tone, especially when swatching. And I did wipe my fingers off before I started swatching the other things, so it's not like the color came from those darker colors before and it's making it darker. Like it just oxidized to be that color after I swiped it. Let's see. These sparkly pinks look interesting, so I want to swatch them. So I'm gonna swatch the shade Glitz from the retro palette, and I'm gonna swatch the shade Psychedelic a little bit further down, and then I will swatch the new shades in between. So there's a shade called Sheen that I'm gonna swatch, and then there's one called Mia. So Sheen, I'm swatching first on both parts of the hand, and then Mia. I feel like they actually look pretty similar, so it's like, how am I supposed to be able to tell the difference? So this is the shade Glitz from Retro. This is the shade Sheen from I Need a Nude, and this is the shade Mia from I Need a Nude. And then this is the shade Psychedelic from Retro, and again, this is Sheen and Mia. So this is what all of them look like. I feel like they shift and look pretty similar. I feel like the shade Psychedelic looks more glittery and wet, and I thought the shade Mia was supposed to be one of those new ones that has really lots of sparkle and stuff, but it looks really similar to the other ones that are already on my hand, so I'm kind of like, was it really that different? I don't know. Maybe it looked better on the lid in certain lighting or something. It is like, you know, 3:30 in the morning while I'm doing this, so maybe that's why. Y'all look how sparkly my hand is. She's just sparkly mess. But you know, I love it, so it's fine. I'm gonna swatch the shade Fair. I finally found something to swatch against Fair. It's, what is the shade called? Vivian, like Vivian Westwood. So I'm gonna swatch that shade. And it has a pinky undertone. I feel like this one has more of a beige-ish undertone to it, but I'm still swatching them side by side. So this is Vivian, and this is Fair. So as you can see, I feel like this one has a more purplish, pinkish, mauve undertone to it, and I feel like this one just has that classic beige undertone to it. Whatever that means, but that's what they look like side by side. I'm gonna try to have an eye look up with this Friday, comparing it to the Makeup by Mario one, like you all requested. Like I told y'all, my son's birthday was, I gotta swatch the shade Jude up against the Travertine. But my son's birthday was over the weekend, and this palette dropped like at a random time where, you know, I wasn't able to do anything sooner. So that's why y'all getting this when you getting this. Sorry. I guess I'll do the shade Whisper too. Why not? We're here, everyone's here. So this is Jude. This is Travertine, and then this is Whisper. So those are all three of those shades. I feel like they all pretty much look the same though. Like, I don't know. Everything's just looking the same on camera. I feel like the shade from Retro has a little bit more shimmer to it and has a little bit more of a rosy-ish, mauve-ish undertone to it, which I noticed about a lot of the shimmers in that palette. But, you know, it makes sense because it's called Retro and the color story of it. But I want to see how I paired against these. So this was the one I was most excited to swatch the other ones against because I felt like it would have those peachy tones. Oh, sorry, those pinky tones that I wanted to swatch. And it did because y'all saw me swatch all the pink shimmers against it. So I was happy about that. Okay. Got one more Natasha palette to do. That's the Dream palette or My Dream palette. And then we'll get into this Makeup by Mario because I feel like that's the one that's going to have the most looks to it. Okay, so, of course, I'm going to do the shade Serenity, and I'm going to have to put it against Travertine once again, because everything needs to go against Travertine, because she loves these taupey-esque type shades. So, swatch 40 times over, girl. Thank Natasha. Don't look at me. Thank Natasha. So, the weird thing is, I feel like this one looks more beige-ish. Not beige-ish, but more like brownie-ish, taupe-ish, with a like pink shift to it, whereas this one just looks like a traditional taupe shade. So that's interesting to me. I know my hand, it looks that way when I look at it. I don't know if you all can see that as I'm trying to move it for you to see, but I feel like it's just kind of blended in with my hand a little bit when it comes to the color when I swatched it. So that's interesting. Because it's like, I feel like you can see it on my hand, but you can't see it well because it just looks like it blends in so well. Any other shades? I feel like there are too many shades in this palette that I can compare this to. Yeah, not too much of anything else in here to compare this to, which I guess is good. I guess we can compare Nurture against Stone, and then I'll compare Carpe Diem up against Wit. So that's Nurture up against Stone. And then this will put Carpe Diem up against Wit. Okay, so here's Nurture and Stone, and then this is Carpe Diem up against Wit. So as you can see, they don't look the same at all. They look somewhat similar in the pan, but seeing them on the back of my hand, they do not look similar at all. Like, Stone is so much lighter than Wit. I'm sorry, than Nurture, and then Carpe Diem is so much deeper than Wit. I kind of want to swatch Tender against this one too, just to see. So I'm gonna probably swatch Tender above where I put Nurture, just to see if the tones will match up a little bit better. Let's see. So here is Tender up against Nurture and Stone. So Tender definitely looks like it's a little bit deeper than Nurture, even though in the pan they look pretty similar. Actually, Nurture looks lighter in the pan than Tender does, but I feel like they actually still look pretty similar in tone. The only things that are off are clearly these two right here, but y'all know her stuff be oxidized and changed to all types of different colors, as you can see if you were not aware before. Like, y'all saw the colors of these in the pan, and they look totally different than they do on my hand. So that's just something to keep in mind with Natasha. Don't be thinking it's going to look like it is in the pan. It's going to oxidize, which is why I was disappointed by her pastel palette, because I'm like, oh, there's a chocolate brown in here. Maybe I should compare that one too. It's called Aspiration, so we can put Aspiration up against Stiletto and see how they do. Even though I feel like that one's going to be darker than... Okay, so they look pretty spot on. I feel like Aspiration is like a tad, just a tad bit darker than Silhouette, but otherwise I feel like they're pretty similar. I don't know, but that's all I got with this palette. I'm not seeing anything else. I was trying to see if I had any like pink sparkly shades that looked similar to something else, but I do not. The shade Thrill looks a little bit sparkly, but I just feel like the undertones of it aren't going to be right to go with the other stuff. Yeah, because it has like a goldish, champagne type undertone with a little bit of pink sparkles in it, and the other things are just truly like pink sparkles with like purple undertones, so that's not gonna work out very well for us. So there's no point of wasting time on that. We've already spent like 25 minutes here with this. Let's get to the grand finale, which y'all asked me to compare this to, and I will be comparing this to, that you will see on Friday. And that will be the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes palette. So all these sparkles in here just make me think of the ones in Natasha's palette. So let's start with the fun sparkles, and then we'll end with the mattes, because I'm concerned about those. Okay, I don't know the names. I'm just going to randomly swatch stuff. Okay, thank you so much. So, ooh, yes, look at the sparkle that Mario got going on here. So, that shade was this one right here. I'm gonna swatch that one against the pinks because what's in my lap, it looks like it has a pinkish undertone to it, along with other ones. So we can swatch that against Sheen and Mia. So the Makeup by Mario one is going first, then we're doing Sheen and Mia. So this is the Makeup by Mario shade, this is Sheen, and this is Mia. I feel like Mia looks somewhat similar to this one. I feel like his has a little bit more glitter reflect in it, but I feel like if you build up Natasha's, it'll look better because it has like an undertone underneath it, whereas I feel like his is sheer and it has to be put on a matte. So that's those three. Let me get into the next one. So there's a more taupey shade that I feel like looks really similar to the shade Delilah. So I'm gonna swatch that now. So I'm swatching this shade right here, and we're gonna pair it against the shade Delilah, which is this one right here. And I'm saying the names just in case I forget to show the palette, so that way you'll still know the name of the palette, the name of the color if you already have the palette. So this is the Makeup by Mario, and this is the shade Delilah from Natasha. So remember, Makeup by Mario, Natasha, Natasha, Makeup by Mario, Natasha. Now I do like the fact that his has a deeper undertone to it in this palette, so I'm liking that. Now we're gonna take the shade, this one right here from Mario, and then we're gonna swatch the shade Ella, and the one that starts with an F behind it, because I struggle bus. It's 4 in the morning. I'm not about to, girl. So with swatch Ella, it seems to be a more satiny shade. So it seems like she put a little bit more satins in here than usual, which, you know, I'm not necessarily upset about, but sometimes majority of the time I don't like satin. So I'm just kind of like, about the satin situation. And all those shades are really close to my skin tone, so I hope you can see them on my arm. Yeah, so this is the Makeup by Mario shade I showed you. This is the shade Ella, and this is the shade Filigree. I believe that's how you say it. So remember, Makeup by Mario, Natasha, Natasha, Makeup by Mario, Natasha, Makeup by Mario, Natasha, Natasha. So I feel like all the shimmers are looking pretty similar. So if you have the Makeup by Mario, you might want to wait to sale for Natasha, because they looking pretty similar. And if you're my skin tone, then maybe you don't need either one of them, because I feel like when we get to these mattes, girl, it's gonna be real disrespectful. I'm just warning you now. I feel like when we get to these mattes, it's gonna be real disrespectful. But I'm trying to get these shimmers out the way, girl. I'm trying to get these shimmers out the way. Okay, I don't think there's really any gold shimmers to compare in here, so I don't think we necessarily need to do the gold shimmers from him. I am going to do the one at the bottom though, just to see if it looks similar to the shade Muse. So I swatched the shade right here at the bottom from Makeup by Mario, and now I'm going to swatch the shade Muse from Natasha. And we're going to see how they go. So Makeup by Mario, Natasha. Oh, that gives off a more silvery vibe to it. Okay, so now I'm swatching this Makeup by Mario shade at the top here. And I'm just swatch that behind the Natasha shade I just swatched, just to see if any of the tones in them will be the same. So this is the first gold shade from Makeup by Mario. This is the shade Muse from Natasha. And then this is the second shade I showed you from Makeup by Mario, the other gold, because I wanted to see if it was similar to this one. I don't feel like either one of them looks similar in my personal opinion. Although I feel like when you hold this one away from the light, since it doesn't have as much of a base on it as the Natasha one does, they look similar. So I'll try to get some videos in the light tomorrow when I do the rest of my comparisons, and see if you can see it better that way in the light, because I feel like underneath this light you're not seeing it as well, but I still wanted to show you some comparisons just because, you know, he's here, we're here, everyone's here. Now I wasn't sure it's about swatching his brown, because like I know damn well your brown is not as deep as Natasha's, because I remember being disappointed by the brown and the fact that it wasn't giving anything for me. The funny thing is when I swatched it on my hand, it looks on my finger, it looks so much deeper, but then when I put it on my face, it's not giving it all. It's not. I'm telling y'all, it's not giving it all. So this is Makeup by Mario, and this is Natasha. Now on the hand, Makeup by Mario looks darker, but y'all saw that video when I put this on my eyes. I'll try to remember to link it up above. Honey, it was not. Do you hear me? It was not. And that's my concern with Natasha, that it's not going to be dark enough. But since it's Natasha and her stuff oxidizes, I feel like I can have a little bit more faith in Natasha than I can in Mario. Because this is my first time trying his, like, I guess more neutral mattes. I had the little quad or whatever, but I didn't really count that because the shade that was in there wasn't that deep, because it wasn't like a full palette. It was a quad, so I let that slide. But I'm like, this is a full palette, and that's the deepest shade you got. I'm going to need you to do better, Mario. Oh, I need to keep in my prayers or something, because this ain't it, honey. So now I'm going to go into this mauve shade right here. Not mauve, but more pinkier shade. And we're going to put that against the shades Vogue and Wit. So we're going to start off with Wit first, and then we're going to Vogue last, because I feel like since Wit is the deepest and more of the peachish pink tone, that it would be the best one to swatch it next to first, and then we'll worry about Vogue last, because I feel like it has more of a, like, you know, neutralish type, mauve-ish undertone that I don't think necessarily goes to the rest of the vibe of what I'm trying to do with the Mario, because that pink is lighter, if that made sense. So this is the Makeup by Mario shade, this is the Wit shade, and then this is a Vogue shade. So as you can see, this is the darkest one out of the three. That's what we're working with, girl. So I'm wiping all those swatches away. I'm trying to see, is there anything else we want to swatch and compare while I'm sitting here? I feel like we can swatch two fair shades, and then maybe swatch like Stone, Tender, and the Makeup by Mario shade. So I'm gonna take these two shades right here from Makeup by Mario to swatch, and then we're gonna swatch them against Fair, Tender, and Stone. So I'll start off with the bone color shade that I always say I don't need in palettes, and it's always in a palette. I'll start with that one. Then I'm going to swatch the shade Fair next to it. Then I am going to swatch the shade from the Makeup by Mario palette, this one right here. Then I'm going to swatch the shade Stone. And then I'll swatch the shade Tender. So this is Tender, this is Stone, and this is that Makeup by Mario shade, the gray one. And then this is Fair, and this is, sorry, this is Fair, and this is the shade for Makeup by Mario. So there you go. I feel like since I've used this makeup wipe so many times now, it is starting to blend in, because the Fair shade does not look that deep when you put it on. So we gonna end the video here, girl, but I wanted to give y'all something with the palette, because I had it since like everybody else had it, and you know, I think mine showed up like Wednesday or Thursday, but like my son's birthday was literally next day, so there wasn't gonna be no filming of that. However, I did finally finish my eyeshadow palette. The clothes random side note, whoever cares. But that's all I got for y'all with this palette as of right now. Friday's video will be me comparing both of these together and doing an eye look and see how that works out for me. But I hope this was helpful to somebody. I know I'm late to the party, but you know, like my invitation got lost in the mail, or it got cross-referenced with Adrian Game Over's birthday invitation. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Remember, you all are dimes. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Be blessed, girl. Bye.